today, but in the theme of triple helix program to improve innovation in agricultural sectors. And also my best friends, Professor Iskandar Z. Siregar, Director of International Program at the University, Dr. Bagus Purwanto, Dr. Wawan, Vice Dean SV-IPB, and also the students who are participating in this webinar. At the moment, more than 100 participants join in our webinar today. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of the seminar is the Triple Helix platform to improve innovation in agricultural sector. Triple Helix was developed in the 1990s by Henry Erkowitz and Lud Ledersdorf. The best example of Triple Helix is Silicon Valley. The government provided land, flexible financing, a stretched tax holiday, and fitting guidelines to the IT cluster in California, US. Triple Helix provide the ideal way for traditional university to develop into an entrepreneurial university. The small and big IT business thrive in this cluster. The world has seen success story of Dell, HP, Hewlett-Packard, Oracle, Intel, and also Microsoft, and so on. In Indonesia, we know about the terms of ABG. ABG stands for Academic, Business, and Government, and it is understood by Indonesian as the way to implement the triple helix. This notion was rooted before the term triple helix became popular terminology in Indonesia for studying the actor interplay in creating dynamic, conducive, and supportive business environment by having three relevant actors. However, the implementation of ABG in Indonesia has not been without its challenge. Some of the main challenge is the lack of communication, understanding, trust, and cooperation among actors involved. In addition, building strong links between academia and industry requires policy that support cross-sector collaboration and help participants overcome obstacles, especially in developing countries like Indonesia. Later, triple helix is being extended to be quadruple helix model, or pentahelix, what we call it is double, triple helix, and so on and so on. So today webinar, we can hear interesting topic from three different perspectives on triple helix platform from Dr. Ida Widi Arsanti, Director of Indonesian Center for Agricultural Education. She will speak on government policy in supporting adaptable curricula during a pandemic. Will be discussing, followed by developing veterinary, public health, and animal welfare curricula from Dr. Roland Colbert from Queensland University, and end up with the demand-driven curricula to create sustainable agriculture innovation will present by Pak Willy Sugiono, Director of PT Kricha Apple. PT Kricha Apple is located in Central Lampung Regency, Lampung Province, Indonesia. And also this company has evolved to be the world's largest fully integrated pineapple plantation and processing facility. The company produces canned pineapple, pineapple concentrated juice, deionized pineapple concentrated juice, and tropical fruit salad. It was established in 1979, cultivating cassava plant, and later in 1980 start to plant pineapple. Currently, the plantation size is about 30,000 hectares. Is that right, Pak Willy? Yeah? I visit Pak Willy in February yes. This year. From the speakers, we will learn how do university, industry, and also government is the collaboration evolving over time. Are these TRI and government institutional spheres actually collaborate? What kind of relationship are established during the collaboration, and what are their drivers? The partnership depended or what we always discuss is whether the partnership is what we call it is sustainable or just only during the specific project, or lasting as long as the project life, or when established they can lead to long-lasting collaboration based on knowledge sharing, common goals, and vision. I sincerely wish from this webinar you will have productive days of interesting and stimulating discussion. enjoy the program. Thank you for your attention. Wabillahi taufiq walhidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, Dr. Engineer Arif Darento, MEC, for the inspiring welcoming speech. Wow, excellencies, participants, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to listen the opening speech delivered by the Director of International Program IPB University. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Dr. Engineer Iskandar Z. Siregar, M4SC IPU Asian Aids. Pak Iskandar, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mas Bagus, who is very enthusiastic. Thank you. So, Mas Gatot, sorry, Mas Gatot. Thank you for your introduction. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, of course, my friend, Dean College of Vocational Study, IPB University, Pak Arif, yeah, and also chairperson of the Academic Senate College of Vocational Studies, Dr. Desi Tambayong, which is also my best friend. Vice Deans, Dr. Bagus, Dr. Wawan, and our esteemed speakers, Dr. Roland Kobold, Bapak Weli Sugiono, Ibu Dr. Ida. Thank you for coming to our event, which is really a good opportunity, yeah, to us to learn many things from your, of course, rich experience. I would like also to mention the head of the study programs, which put the resources to conduct this event, all lecturers and also our students. Yeah, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all, especially for participants from outside of IPB University, yeah, to this international webinar that has been designed as a series or a part of the third International Summer Courses event with the theme Triple Helix, Platform to Improve Innovation in Agricultural Sector. It is still a pleasure to witness this opening of the webinar, and I wish us continued good health, yeah, despite pandemic. The pandemic situation has brought us really to a new normal. Before we don't believe it, but now we have to face this era every day that requires more of our efforts, our energy, and thought, yeah, to find solution to all significant changes that affect every aspect in human life. As a basic human need, the agricultural sector has been significantly also affected and brought changes in our behavior, not only in consumption, yeah, because we are now staying home a lot of time, yeah, changes in our consumption, but also on the other hand, changes in the production activities. To be able successfully survive in this situation, we should be able to adapt, yeah, develop and innovate due to the changes of environmental condition today. Innovation in agriculture sector is needed to ensure the continuity of food systems, making sure that everyone has access, yeah, to sufficient, safe, nutritious, sustainable food, preserve the affordability of food. It is very important while generating economic returns amid pandemic COVID-19. New technologies, in this case, and scientific discoveries combined with the increasing public awareness and demand for sustainable food will benefit all stakeholders. Agriculture producer in developing country, especially Indonesia, are generally restricted in technology, capital, extension service, and market integration. As the consequences, it is often difficult for small-scale producer to follow the ever-changing market situation, which demands the integrity of quality, quantity, safety, and competitive pricing. Even though the number of area and production of agriculture in Indonesia is increasing, but its contribution is steadily decreasing. Therefore, the interaction between university, industry, and government plays an important role to create innovation and development. University as the knowledge center, industry as the party who understand consumers, and government as the regulator. The key factor of an agribusiness development is the involvement of multi-stakeholders in the process of reaching common goals to improve productivity and competitiveness. Multi-stakeholders involvement can be conducted in formal forms such as an alliance, I think, partnership, community of practice, for example, and other platform and initiative. I hope that the presence of our speakers today can give us a better understanding to all of us regarding the role of university and the private sector, including the government, in realizing the great ideas from research to economic development under conducive policy, of course. To provide some context of the summer course thematic area, IPB University is actively pursuing collaboration with a variety of stakeholders in order to broaden our local, regional, and global impact. Summer course is a global platform to network expansion, and this year we are, IPB University, conducting 25 summer courses virtually. We hope after the summer course, we wish to facilitate resource exchanges and the sharing of best practice. I anticipate engaging in numerous additional activity after the summer course, in particular in addressing the global agenda like sustainable development goals. With this, I end my speech and herewith declare the opening, Pak Arif, with your permission, of this international webinar of the vocational from the vocational studies with the theme Triple Helix Platform to Improve Innovation in Agriculture Sector. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Pak Iskandar.
Sama-sama Pak Arif. Ya.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Dr. Insinyur Iskandar Siregar, for the amazing opening speech. Excellencies, disguised guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to the main presentation. But before we go to the main presentation, let's do the photo session. Mrs. Ima will do this activity.
Yes.
Okay, please give your best performance for this photo session.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gatot. So, ladies and gentlemen, you please open your camera and then hold your pose. We have 5 slides here. Keep your best pose, smile. First slide. And then second slide. Third, fourth, the last slide. Okay, thank you very much. Back to Mr. Gatot.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Ima, for the photo session. And then, excellencies, disguised guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to the main presentation. This webinar will be moderated by Ms. Antonia Rumondang Sinaga, SCMM. I would like to give the background of Ms. Antonia. Ms. Antonia Rumondang Sinaga, SAMM, is a lecturer of Agribusiness Management Study Program of College of Vocational Studies IPB University. She graduated from Pajajaran University Bandung, majoring Economic and Management in Bachelor Degree Program, and IPB University, majoring Management and Business in Master Program. She is very active in academic workshops on implementation and management strategy of College Vocational Studies IPB University. Now she is a committee of the Improving Sustainability of tropical animal production summer course. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Ms. Antonia Rumundang Sinaga, SAMM. Ms. Antonia, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gatot, for the introduction. I believe that my sound is perfectly well. Can you hear
very
it?
good. Yeah,
Okay,
very
thank
good.
you so
Yes,
much.
perfect.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning for Europe participants and good day and good afternoon for Asia participants. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce myself. My name is Antonia as the moderator of today's webinar. I am very pleased to be here and welcome all of you to this SV-IPB International Webinar Series. The topic of this international webinar series is about Triple Helix platform to improve innovation in agricultural sector. We have with us here three distinguished speakers. The first one is Mr. Welly Sugiono. He is the director of the Great Giant Pineapple Corporation, and his topic will be demand-driven curricula to create sustainable agricultural innovation. And the second speaker is Dr. Roland Cobold. He is a lecturer from Queensland University, and he will deliver a talk about developing veterinary public health and animal welfare curricula. We also have with us here the third speaker, Dr. Ida Widi Arsanti. She is the director of Indonesian Center for Agricultural Education. But because of her limited time and duties, she will give a talk with via recording. Her talk will be about government policy in supporting adaptable curricula during the pandemic. And after that, we will have Mr. Kodrat. He is the sub-coordinator of Indonesian Center for Agricultural Education for the Q&A session, replacing Dr. Ida. Okay, welcome, Mr. Welly, Dr. Cobold, and Mr. Kodrat. Very nice to finally meeting you. Before we start the presentation, I would like to inform to our lovely speakers that our presentation will run for about 25 minutes for each speaker. First, I will give the time for the first speaker, Mr. Welly, and continue with the second speaker, Dr. Cobold. And after that, of course, we will continue with our third speaker, Dr. Ida, and also with Mr. Kodrat. After the presentation is done, we will continue our session with the question and answer session, Q&A. Audiences can give their question by giving their question via Zoom chat or giving the question directly by using the raise hand feature in your Zoom application, and the committee will help to allow you to unmute. Okay, now we are moving on to our presentation session, but before that, please allow me to introduce you a slight background of our speakers. For that, the committee will assist me for sharing the screen. Thank you. The first speaker is Mr. Welly Sugiono. Mr. Welly Sugiono is the director of Great Giant Pineapple Corporation. And his educational background is, of course, from IPB University. And his work experiences is the director at Indonesian sole distributor for Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, Liub. And for recent is the director of PT Great Giant Pineapple. The second speaker is Mr. Dr. Roland Cobold from Queensland University, Australia. His educational background, he got his bachelor degree from University of Queensland, Australia, from School of Veterinary Medicine. And he got his PhD of microbiology from University of Queensland, Australia, from the Department of Microbiology and Parasitology, 2002. And also he have higher education, GCED, University of Queensland, Australia, from the Department of Education. He also have a lot of honors and awards, but I cannot mention one by one. So maybe I can read some of it. University of Queensland Postgraduate Research Scholarship, University of Queensland Award for Teaching Excellence Commendation, Australian Veterinary Association AVA Excellence in Teaching Award, University of Queensland Award for Teaching Excellence, University of Queensland Teaching Fellowship, Citation for Outstanding Contribution to Student Learning, and Australian Award for University Teaching Program. And I'm convinced that he also have others. And we can continue with the third speaker is Dr. Ida Widi Arsanti, SPMM. She is the director of Indonesian Center for Agriculture Education from the Ministry of Agriculture. Her background, we can start with her educational background. She got her bachelor degree in agribusiness, IPB University. Also her master's degree in social economics and resources from Gajah Mada University. And she got her doctoral degree in horticulture, Humboldt University, Germany. Her work experiences, she is the head of subdivision of the Horticulture Research and Development Center, and she also the head of program and evaluation of the Horticulture Center for Research and Development. She also the head of corporation and utilization of Horticultural Research and Development Center research results. And on 2018, she also the chief of the Agricultural Education Agency for Counseling and Development for Agricultural Human Resources. Okay. We are very pleased to welcome our first speaker, Mr. Welly. Are you ready? To Mr. Welly, please,
Yes.
you may proceed with your presentation now.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My colleague, please, Willy Sugiono. As I mentioned, that I'm actually a veterinarian, but I have specialized in a different field except my own field. So I never practice as a veterinarian, but mostly involved in what you call it, in agribusiness. My presentation can be shared. Hello? Hello?
Okay.
Hello? Can you hear my? Hello? Hello?
Halo Tonya.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Welly?
You can hear my voice?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Somebody can share my presentation?
Okay, the committee will help. I'm sorry for the
Oh, atau Pak Indra kalau
delay.
sudah masuk bisa di-share Pak Indra. Bantu. Okay, while waiting for the presentation, I would like to explain to you that we are from the PT Great Giant Pineapple. Actually, Great Giant Pineapple is we are doing plantation and canning of pineapple. of plantation located in Lampung Tengah. We have 35,000 hectares with 25,000 number of employees, and we are the world largest canned pineapple producer now. And we are 100% traceability. So now we are being the world's single largest integrated green production facility. On the 1997, we are still top 3 canned pineapple producer in the world. 2017, we are the great canned pineapple producers in the world at single location, one piece of land. And this year, 2021, we are the giant canned pineapple producer in the world, Indonesia. So our export around 17,000 container per year to 65 countries, mainly in Europe, America, Asia Pacific, and America Latin. We have 65, and we do private labeling manufacturing. Yeah, this is, please share. Yeah, so we are 13,000, 7,000 containers, and now we are harvesting around 2,500 tons to 3,000 tons a day fresh pineapple to be processed in the cannery. And out of 2,500 to 3,000 cannery, there is a waste. There is a waste around 300 metric ton a day. And for that, we use those waste as a animal feedstuff to feed the cattle fattening. We have now the population around 23,000 heads of fattening cattle. And out of 23,000 head of fattening cattle, produce per day around 180 tons of manure. And out of manure, we process for the power, and for the solid material we use as a compost. And out of the stem, pineapple stem, we extract it and we produce bromelain enzyme for export also. So that's what we got it as now what we are practicing now with the circular economy, which is mainly if you talk about the circular economy, it's very close with the zero waste system. So we try to utilize everything what we have and convert it, let's say for the food waste from the pineapple, we convert it into edible food to make as a meat to feed the nation. So that's the circular economy what we are implementing. So with community development, we have a closed loop circular economy that we are implementing. Ladies and gentlemen, to export, to become the biggest export, now we have 20. Our base is in Lampung and Blitar is Jawa, but Blitar is only small because it's only 300 hectares, something like that. And now we have 20 international certification because and we are being audited also by the buyer. So everything has to be goes through the certification what we have. And so now we are implementing also social needs and economic value creation in form of creating share value. We have a partnership with the smallholder farmers, and there is the partnerships is end-to-end, start from very upstream, providing the planting materials, and then we are also observing and educating also the farmer in the field to plan how to plan good agricultural practices, how to plant the banana, harvesting, packaging, and finally we are the off-taker of the produce. So why we have to have end-to-end partnership system? Because we want to make sure that whatever produced in the farmer have to be the same quality and what we produce in our own plantation. So when they harvest it and KKP as an off-taker, there will be no rejection of the product, because from the very beginning up to the harvesting, packaging, and then we always side by side with the farmer. We work together with the farmer and teach them, educate them how to produce a good quality of banana or something like that. So there is what we have done with the empowerment. So if we are talking about the triple helix, of course, we need in a very segment of our activity. So because, you know, from the agriculture, especially in horticulture, it's not just we are talking about agronomy. It's not talking about the post-harvesting, but we are talking also about the economy. We are talking also about the how our produce to be marketed also. So, and on the other side, since we have a 20 certification, international certification, so we have to have also manpower who knows and understand about the sustainability, how our product can, there is a traceability also. Now, so we need not only an agronomy or a pest control on everything, but actually we have end-to-end. We need every single thing. So that's what I call it, that the approach has to be multi-dimensional approach. So what we are trying to do now with the IPB is we try to have a cooperation with IPB, since IPB have the land, and we try to make the land as a research center. But this research center is different with the other research center. We try to make this research center is not cost center, but we try to make income generating research center together with IPB. So that's out of the research about the, let's say, a banana plantation, we will produce also the banana, the best, the good quality of banana also, and then they will give income also to the research center. And on the other hand, also that the student, lecturer, everything, they can participate also in this real, a small business one. So especially with Mr. Arif now as a dean of vocation school, we try to make something that is the real what they will experience after the graduation from the school. That's all the student will face it when they start to enter to the real business world. And that's what actually, for instance, if I want to give also example, veterinarian. My experience in Indonesia, not all veterinarian graduated from the faculty of veterinary medicine will have their own clinic. Some they will open up and they will work as a clinicus, but some of them they will enter agribusiness world. And it is really two different things. When you open up a clinic, so your goal is how to make the patient, how to make the patient get well, how to satisfy the owner of the pets. And then regardless the cost, because the target is how the owner of the pet satisfied, because their pet and everything. So regardless all the cost, whatever the cost you will expend, the owner of the pet will not, as long as they can their pet recover. But when the veterinarian enter to the world of agribusiness, it's different, because they're emphasizing and they have to do more preventive management rather than the curative management. In the clinic, because maybe they want to spend medicine, everything, but in the agribusiness, not a single medicine used for the animal, maybe just only for the preventive. Now, these are two different things as I think to be prepared. So that's when they graduated from the school, they work in our company, at least they know already. Because the first time when we open up the Great Giant Livestock, our fattening cattle, we have a very funny experience. At that time, we have one newly hired from Faculty of Veterinary Medicine. When they start work with us, so when we unloading the cattle, there is one of the cattle have a broken leg. So what the new veterinarian doing is they start to take they want to make something like they want to treat the cattle like they put a bone painting like to fix the leg and everything. So that's what I explained to him. No, rather than you do it like that, you slaughter the cattle. You can, because when you operate and bone painting the leg and everything, maybe the cattle within 1 week is already very thin. So when they are still fat, you better slaughter the cattle. You can sell the meat. That's the difference, I think. So that's what we are expected from the as a company. That's we have to do something. How to teach, how to establish the curricula for our, so that's when they graduated and they work with us, at least they know already. Because impossible to ready for use is impossible, but at least they're ready to be trained. That's because if we talk about the agribusiness from the upstream to the downstream, And that's the institutional, something like IPB, they have to anticipate. So that's whatever they produce, graduate from IPB, they can start the work and know what is the real work actually. So there's also another point that we want to have a cooperation with the IPB. We signed already, especially with Pak Arif Daryanto in Jonggol. And this teaching farm will try to show and to teach all the students and the preparation before they are entering the real world of the business. So I think that's that's all I wanna talk in this webinar. My expectation is too much because up to now, it's a very difficult also to find young people to work in a remote area, and it is also psychologically necessary to be prepared. I think this all what I want to say, and then maybe if there is a question, we can have more time in the discussion session, Q&A. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Welly, for giving us such an informative and interesting presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we will continue our presentation with our second speaker, Dr. Kobold. Dr. Kobold, are you ready? Please proceed with your presentation. The time is yours. Hello, Dr. Kobold. Hello. Dr. Kobold? Yes, he is here. Do you have difficulties on unmuting your Zoom? Dr. Kobold? Committee, will we continue with the third speaker, or we will wait for Dr. Kobold? Maybe we can switch the sequence. I'm afraid maybe Dr. Kobold are having technical difficulties. So, okay, we may continue. We may switch the sequence, and if the speakers doesn't mind, for Mrs. Ida, we welcome Mrs. Ida recording to be the next speaker. For that, I hope the committee or Mrs. Ida team will help with the video or presentation. Okay, please, Miss Dr. Ida or Mr. Kodrat, the time is yours.
Hello. Sorry, just have to load my presentation up.
Mr. Roland.
You're ready for my presentation now?
Yeah, we thought that you have technical difficulties, so we continue with the third speaker first, if you don't mind.
That's fine. If you like, I'm ready to go now if you like, but if not, you can start with someone else.
Oh, okay. Okay, you are ready now.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us here Dr. Kobold, who is the second speaker. And Dr. Kobold, please proceed with your presentation. The time is yours.
Yes, well, Selamat siang, everybody, and thank you very much for the invitation to present here. It's a real pleasure to talk to my Indonesian colleagues again. I've done quite a bit of work in Indonesia at different times, and have always enjoyed very much visiting and working with the Indonesian people. It's always been a great pleasure. So my talk today is on developing veterinary public health and animal welfare curriculum. So just a bit of background about me. So I'm from Australia, and I'm from Queensland, which is this state up here in the northeast of Australia. And the campus I work at the University of Queensland's in Gatton. So the main campus for the University of Queensland's in Brisbane, and that's the picture of the Brisbane main St Lucia campus here. But we're in a regional campus out at Gatton, and at Gatton they have the School of Veterinary Science and the School of Agriculture and Food Science. So my main discipline area is veterinary public health. I do teaching in veterinary public health at the University of Queensland. I also teach in the areas of One Health, biosecurity and bacteriology. And my main research area is in zoonoses and foodborne disease. So I have done research on Campylobacter, Salmonella, Q fever, leptospirosis. I do a lot of work on antimicrobial resistance as well. I also work a great deal in the teaching and learning space. I've done quite a lot of work in teaching innovation and curriculum design. So quite a lot of research, publications and project work. I've also had some teaching and learning management and leadership roles at the school and university level. And I've worked quite a bit in Southeast Asia on curriculum and teaching development and exchange work in Indonesia, but also Malaysia and Vietnam, a little bit in Japan as well, and always enjoy that work very much. Much of what I do now is more in the area of standard setting and management. So I'm on the Australasian Veterinary Accreditation Panel. So I'm part of the team that goes to look at veterinary schools and make sure that their standards are sufficient to maintain accreditation for teaching. I've also done quite a bit of work with OIE, the World Organization for Animal Health, mainly in the area of veterinary paraprofessional education. I do some work on examinations for international students in order to allow them to register to practice in Australia. And I also do specialist examinations in the field of veterinary public health. But what I want to talk to you today is about some project work I did with IPB some years ago now. This work was funded by the Australian Government's Department of Agriculture, and the title of the project was The Alignment of Bogor University's Animal Welfare and Public Health Curriculum with International Standards. So what was the reason for this project work? So at that time, there were some problems with slaughter practices. Australian cattle that were being exported to Indonesia, there were some problems with the slaughtering techniques and particularly stunning, lack of stunning. And this caused some problems in the media and for public perception at home in Australia. And it resulted in the Australian government suspending trade of animal export to Indonesia for a period. And they introduced a system called SCAS that required very careful tracing of animals wherever they went from Australia into Indonesia, and requirements to have animal welfare officers managing those animals at the Indonesian side. And so this project work that I was engaged with was a result of this problem, and it was designed to enhance the level of engagement between Australia and Indonesia in terms of standardising welfare systems, but particularly in terms of welfare training at veterinary schools in Indonesia. At the same time, there was also a desire to look at the international standards of veterinary public health teaching at EPB. This was requested by EPB as part of the project. They were quite interested in public health at the time and One Health, and so they requested that this also be looked at. But this was a broader question for Indonesian veterinary schools more than just EPB. So they were interested in internationalising their curriculum, so having deciding if their curriculum met global standards and possibly looking at cross-accreditation of training, but also because the nature of veterinary public health practice is changing so dramatically in terms of food safety modernisation and One Health. So we had a number of collaborators on this project. The main one was the funding agency, the Department of Agriculture in Australia. My co-chief investigator was Dr. Andrew Tribe, who's with the School of Agriculture and Food Sciences, also at Gatton College there. And we had a number of collaborators with the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine at EPB. The deans, Dr. Shrihadi and Agus, were very, very helpful in giving us access to all the information and people we needed. Dr. Fajar led the animal welfare discipline area at EPB. Dr. Denny is in charge of the veterinary public health curriculum. We had an Indonesian-based Department of Agriculture representative helping us as well. And we also had some engagement from various government departments in Indonesia. We also had a liaison officer with what was originally called the World Society for Animal Protection. They changed their name to the World Animal Protection Agency, but we had Natasha Lee, who represented that organisation, also coming along. So what were the project aims? The aim was really to evaluate EPB's veterinary public health and animal welfare curricula and their teaching practices, and to then identify changes needed to harmonise that training with international standards. So the idea was to develop and implement new curriculum and teaching approaches that would produce graduates that were best prepared for animal welfare and veterinary public health practice, and then to evaluate the impacts of these changes. We didn't want to simply add extra material to the curriculum. The curriculum was already very busy and a high quality curriculum. And so the aim wasn't just to add more lectures. The aim was to do more systemic change and to look deep into the curriculum and change the curriculum all the way through. So to maintain both vertical and horizontal integration of the animal welfare and veterinary public health teaching. The aim was to internationalise veterinary public health and animal welfare curriculum. So in other words, make it such that graduates from EPB could be ready to practice anywhere in the world based on their knowledge. But at the same time, we had to make sure that that training respected and maintained the Indonesian context and relevance. As it was an EPB-based program, we had to make sure it also harmonised with the standard EPB type curriculum and the structures that were required for teaching there. And the idea was that we would trial this approach to new curriculum at EPB, but eventually it might be then passed on to the other veterinary schools in Indonesia. There was also a desire to perhaps develop a continuing education package based on this enhanced training that could be rolled out to previous graduates of EPB. So there were several stages in the study. The first was a scoping study just to understand how the program was taught at EPB and meet the necessary people. We would then do a curriculum gap analysis to understand what the needs were. We would then draft a curriculum modification plan and test that plan, do a pilot intervention, then develop the final curriculum and evaluate that and report and present on it. So this is me, and this is my colleague, Dr. Andrew Tribe. So I was the veterinary public health expert in this case, and Dr. Tribe was the animal welfare expert. So the first work we did was a scoping study. We did an initial visit to IPB. We met with the dean and the leads of the various disciplines. So this is Dr. Shrahadi, Professor Shrahadi, who's the dean, and this is Dr. Denny, who heads the veterinary public health sector. We had a lot of discussions with all of the important people involved in the work to make sure that that everyone understood what goals and what outcomes we wanted from the study. So we needed to make sure that everyone had the same idea about the outcomes. We then looked at the overall program. We just understood what the overall curriculum looked like, what the admission systems were, how students progress in the program, teaching and assessment approaches, and so forth. This picture is a picture of the Governor's Palace in Jakarta. I was lucky enough to meet Joko Widodo. So when I was there for this scoping visit, we visited the Governor's Palace for a religious festival. And at that time, Joko Widodo was still the governor, not the president. So we got to meet with him, which was a great pleasure. So for those who are not familiar, the veterinary program at IPB comprises two separate degrees. One is an undergraduate program that has a common first-year program. So everyone in the animal sciences, agricultural sciences program does the same first year. After that, it's a fairly classical structure: anatomy, physiology, nutrition, pathology, infectious diseases, and then medicine. And then the students progress to a one-year professional program where they undertake rotations, 6 different rotations across different areas of expertise in veterinary science, where they gain direct practical experience working in the field. And then the veterinary students sit a national veterinary competency exam. And if they pass that exam, they can then be registered to practice veterinary science. So the next thing we did, the next phase of the project work, was a curriculum gap analysis. So the idea here was to look very carefully at the IPB curriculum and compare it to various standards to look for any areas of omission. So are there any gaps in the IPB curriculum? To look at the volume of learning, which basically means the content. So do any courses have too much content or too little? Does the teaching material align to the learning objectives? Is the content sequenced and organised effectively? Is the content up to date? Is it modern? And does it reflect global practice? We also looked at the teaching methods and we looked at the assessment systems. And to do this, we used a matrix tool, as in this diagram, where we had the competency standards, and I'll talk about what standards we used soon. But down this axis, we had the competency standards, and then we looked at each course in IPB that taught animal welfare and public health, and we evaluated the different elements. So that the content, the assessment, the learning objective alignment, and so forth. So the first step was to view the written curriculum. So we had extensive documentation that described the curriculum from the different course syllabus. We were able to then look at the specific teaching materials. We could look at the PowerPoints, we could look at teaching notes, practical manuals, the course assessment information. So on paper, at the desktop level, we could get a good understanding of what was being taught. But of course, the best way to understand what's being taught is to go into the actual classroom. And so we did do that as well. We sat in and we observed teaching across a number of different fields. We sat in on lectures and practicals and tutorials. We went on field trips with the students. We talked a lot to the students as well to gain their understanding of how they were being taught. And we also looked quite a lot at the assessment. We looked at their exams, what they were asked and what their answers were, and we looked at their assignments. And we compared all of this to a variety of standards. So one of the main standards we used was from the World Organization for Animal Health, the OIE. So there's 2 different documents there. One is the Veterinary Education Core Curriculum. So this set of standards talks about the curriculum in general. But then there's another important standard from the OIE, which is about the competencies of graduating veterinarians to assure national veterinary services. So essentially, this is what competencies do students need in order to service that country effectively for veterinary staff. We also worked to a number of international veterinary accreditation standards. The main ones were the Australasian Veterinary Boards Council. So these are the standards that Australian and New Zealand veterinary schools work to, but increasingly these standards are being adopted by a number of countries in Southeast Asia. So there are veterinary schools in Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Thailand who are all interested in joining the Australasian Veterinary Boards Council and aligning with the standards there. We also compared the curriculum to the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons standards. So these are the main standards for the UK and Europe, and also with the American standards as well. The important thing in modern veterinary education is use of competency-based training and competency-based standards. So many years ago, the emphasis was on what do we teach? When we were looking at standards for curriculum, the emphasis was just looking at what was taught. But increasingly, we're moving to a competency-based system where instead we are now looking at what do students know and what can students do? What can students show they can do? So these are what we call the day one skills. So these are the minimum competencies expected of new graduates. When the students complete their veterinary training, what can they physically do that veterinarians need to do in practice across all species, all the discipline areas, with respect to their knowledge, their technical skills, but also their attitudes. And most of the world uses the Royal College's day one competencies for this purpose. And so similarly, we mapped IPB's curriculum to these day one competencies. So what did we find? For the animal welfare, the gap analysis said that most of the required day one competencies are already present. So the animal welfare curriculum was good. It was actually quite effective and quite globalized. The main thing that was needed was to consolidate the animal welfare training. So the main issue was that animal welfare training was in small pieces throughout the whole curriculum. And what was needed was a defined course, a defined component of animal welfare teaching. And also there needed to be some enhanced assessment. So the intervention that was introduced was to develop a new animal welfare course that was brought into third year. But beyond this, it wasn't just the one course. There was also a scaffolded animal welfare curriculum introduced into other components of the curriculum. Program learning objectives were articulated for the whole program, and other course components that had animal welfare relevance were also mapped. There was also behaviour training introduced into first year. Students can't know anything about animal welfare until they understand about animal behaviour. And so there was a need for more animal behaviour training earlier in the program. And in the later part of the program, we introduced more clinical linkage. In other words, when the students were on rotations out in the field, they were using their animal welfare knowledge and skills more directly with actual cases and situations. We also enhanced the international contextualization. So rather than just purely Indonesian issues, we used learnings from across the world to enhance students' understanding of animal welfare. And we were supported by the World Animal Protection Group in terms of providing some resources for this teaching. In terms of the veterinary public health standards, we looked primarily at the IE recommendations. We compared the veterinary public health curriculum of EPB to the IE's day one skills. And in fact, the Royal College has some specific veterinary public health day one skills that are quite detailed. And these relate to the teaching of epidemiology, regulatory medicine, in other words, legislation, clinical sciences, food hygiene and technology, and food inspection and control. And so we had to look at each of these components not just the classical veterinary public health course, but also these elements of training as well. And what we recommended for changes to the public health curriculum were to include some more modern concepts and content. The veterinary public health curriculum was a very classical model, and it needed some updating to look in more detail at antimicrobial resistance, which of course is one of the major problems that both the veterinary and medical sectors face as a health problem, apart from COVID. Food safety assurance using modern methods such as HACCP and risk assessment, and use of more molecular, epidemiological and microbiological methods in terms of outbreak management, diagnostics and so forth. We wanted to introduce more broad scenarios for use in rotations. So they already had some scenario-based teaching and case-based teaching, but we decided to introduce broader scenarios that were more global in outlook. We wanted to introduce more detail on the individual foodborne pathogens, such as Salmonella and Campylobacter, have a more international context for food processing, and also look at better teaching methods too. So the curriculum was very lecture heavy, and we wanted to have more practicals. We wanted to take some of the lectures out and replace those with interactive tutorials and interactive practicals. Have an opportunity for more guest lecturers, particularly from the government, who could speak about government practice, more use of online and technical resources rather than classical lecture notes, and enhance the veterinary relevance of some sections, which were more aligned to classical food safety. One part of the project work was for EPB staff to come and visit us at UQ. And so about 8 or 10 EPB staff came and stayed with us for 2 weeks at the University of Queensland. And they came and they looked at our curriculum, a bit similar to what we did. They came, they reviewed our curriculum, they came and visited our classrooms, they spoke to our students, and they observed our teaching and assessment practices so that we could exchange ideas and methods for improving both of our teaching and curriculum. We had a number of ideas for evaluating these interventions, but we had some limitations, the main one being time. The project essentially ran out before the intervention could be fully mapped all the way through to the graduating cohort, but we were able to do some direct observations of the interventions in the first year and the third year of the professional program. We also undertook some student surveys on animal welfare attitudes and knowledge, and we also looked at some graduate outcomes around employment and career surveys. And finally, we completed the project, and it was time to present the report. And so we had a formal project report that had to go to the funding agency, the Department of Agriculture, but also we presented this information at a number of different forums, both in Indonesia and Australia. The main one in Indonesia was the Veterinary Deans meeting in Yogyakarta, but also we presented to the government agencies and a number of other stakeholder groups, including the Indonesian Veterinary Medical Association and FAVA. And that was the end of the project. We all had a very good time. We all enjoyed each other's company very much and worked very collegially together. And we would very much like to try to do some more work like this again in the future. So terima kasih for your attention.
Okay, terima kasih. Thank you so much, Dr. Cobbold. And we come to the third speaker now. Thank you very much also, Dr. Cobbold, for the insightful presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we are excited to move on to our last presentation that will be delivered by via recording by the third speaker, Dr. Ida.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, distinguished speakers. Arif Daryanto, Dean College of Vocational Studies at IPB Universities. Iskandar Siregar, the Director of International Program, IPB University. Roland Cobot from Queensland University, Australia. Welly Sugiono, the Director of PT GGP. Participant of the summer course, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, allow me to express my gratitude to distinguished speakers and participants of international webinar on the third international summer course on sustainability of tropical animal production. I wish that all of us are in good health and progressing in adapting the new normal policy in our daily activities. The new normal activities as a result of adapting to this crisis has drawn the government attention to focus on implementing
Team, we lost the sound. We can see the presentation, but we lost the sound.
Syahrul Yassin Limpo stated that to be able to attain advanced, independent, and modern agriculture, we rely our future on young generation or youth. Therefore, there is a need to create 2.5 million, the millennial farmers in 2024. These millennials who are equipped with sufficient knowledge, science, and technology will be able to address various issues faced by stakeholders in agriculture. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to achieve 2.5 million millennial farmers in 2024, the Ministry of Agriculture has set up several action programs. Under the Indonesian Agency for Agricultural Extension and Human Resource Development, the Ministry of Agriculture focused on 3 action programs, namely Agriculture Development Strategy Command, or Kostratani, Millennial Agriculture Program, and support for main program for the ministry. However, improving the capacity of youth or young generation is not without obstacles. As we can see in this slide, there are several challenges faced by agriculture in Indonesia, such as the low interest of youth in the agricultural sector. In employment and entrepreneurship, both on-farm and off-farm, as well as the decreased number of farmers each year by 500,000 farmers. Meanwhile, looking at opportunities, there are more than 70% of the Indonesian population are in the production or productive age. This productive group of age could provide opportunities in developing agriculture in Indonesia. The role of youth is to substitute aging farmer because we believe that they are more competitive, more responsive to the technology, and also more adaptive and creative. In order to equip millennials to become professional, competitive entrepreneurs, Indonesian Agency for Agriculture Extension and Human Resource Development have 3 pillars: education, training, and extension. It has deployed 3 main interventions. Those are, first, movement of strategic command for agriculture development in the district or Kostratani. The second, extension, education, and vocational training to support the growth of millennial agriculture entrepreneurs. And also the third, extension, education, and training to support the main program of the Ministry of Agriculture. Looking at the next slide, we would like to inform you that under the IAA EHRD, One of the pillars that we have is the Indonesian Center for Agriculture Education. Through its vision and mission, we are committed to achieve our two main goals, which are the first, to create young agriculture entrepreneurs, particularly in the rural areas. These entrepreneurs will be able to create jobs and empower local people to run their business. We hope that the presence of young agriculture entrepreneurs in the rural areas could foster the economic development which will be beneficial for all stakeholders. The second is to create skilled labor in the field of agriculture that it fit with the industry requirement. Some industries have become our partner in managing the alumni. Some of them has established good network to recruit the alumni to become their staff in the company. As we can see in this slide, the Indonesian Center for Agriculture Education has 7 polytechnic and 3 vocational schools located across Indonesia. Each of these polytechnic has its own specialization. For example, Agriculture Development Polytechnic of Medan, a School of Coffee, Agriculture Development Polytechnic of Goa and Manokwari, a School of Cocoa Technology, and PEPI, a School for Agriculture Engineering Manager. Ladies and gentlemen, looking at this slide, we would like to highlight about Kosratani. Kosratani is our main program to improve agriculture production. It is a center for agriculture development activities at the sub-district level, which is also an effort to optimize the task, function, and role of the Agriculture Extension Center, or BPP, by utilizing IT and realizing national food sovereignty. Besides Kosratani, the Ministry of Agriculture implements several policies to flourish agriculture entrepreneurs as well as to equip millennials with sufficient skill as qualified job seekers. These activities such as vocational education and vocational training, demonstration plot, and incentive. Activities of vocational education and vocational training include financial access, cultivation technique, harvesting technique, processing technique, and market access. The demonstration plots covers cultivation, harvesting, and processing technique. Meanwhile, incentive provides several activities, such as the development of millennial agriculture entrepreneurs, youth entrepreneurship and employment support services, farmers cooperation, digitalization in agriculture, youth ambassador, and also 2.5 million millennial farmers. Ladies and gentlemen, in the next slide, I would like to highlight that farmers and millennial farmers who are practicing and utilizing agriculture machinery, IT, and digital platform are supporting the government to secure food supply during the crisis. These are some of the millennials who are focusing their business in agriculture sector. As millennial agripreneurs ambassador, their roles include providing food for many Indonesians, as well as generating income and also increasing farmers' welfare. I would like to share some of the success story of agriculture millennials who earn profit from agriculture. As you can see that these millennials are not only promoting agriculture in the field, but also in the digital platform such as marketplace and webinars. They share experiences and try to influence as many as they can for young generation to join in agriculture. As we can see in this slide, that many millennials are now expanding for business through online marketing to keep delivering food to customers. For instance, Sandi Oktasusila from Cianjur, West Java, who are conducting his business in horticulture. And also Slamet from Sukabumi, West Java, who has been successfully developed wild farm. The net figures still talk about the example of millennials who are conducting their business and assisting farmers to increase their income. They are not only fulfilling the domestic market, but also exporting their product to the international market. For example, Kadek Surya from Bali and Jatu Barmawati from Jakarta are two millennials who are expanding their market to foreign customers around the globe. From this figure, we can see other millennials, Gesang, Husni Tamrin, Rizal, who have been partnering with many other farmers in supporting food supply in the current crisis caused by COVID-19 pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude my presentation, I would like to state that youth are valuable asset for Indonesia to be able to secure agricultural production in the future. They are smart, adaptive to technology, and ready to enter the era of Agriculture 4.0. I hope that we will have fruitful discussion in this international webinar and produce valuable output for attracting more youth to join us in agriculture. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Ida Tim, for the presentation. Is there any, is Mr. Kodrat will deliver some presentation also, or we can continue with the next session? And the next session is a question and answer session. Okay, I think we can continue with the next session. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now entering the discussion session. For anybody who have questions, you have two options here. The first option is to write your question on the Zoom chat column. And then the second option is to raise your hand virtually and ask the speaker directly after I mention your name. Okay, we have here Muhammad Fatir. Muhammad Fatir has raised his hand, and I think he will deliver his question. Okay, Muhammad Fatir, you can ask your question directly. Can you unmute yourself?
Okay, Miss, can you hear my voice?
Yes, clearly.
Okay, actually, I have three questions to three different speakers. Is that okay?
It is okay. It is
Okay,
okay.
I will make it quick and simple. First, I want to ask to Mr. Welly Sugiono from Good Giant Pineapple. My question is, how the quality control that apply in GGP, especially in pineapple plantation? As we know that pineapple from the GGP is one of the best quality. So make the GGP is one of the biggest exporter in pineapple commodity. And second is for Mr. Cobalt. I want to ask about is there a duration from this curriculum development or maybe the next phase after this project of curriculum development. And the last question is for maybe Mr. Kodrat. I want to ask about is there any criteria, land criteria to get an incentive from this Kostra Tani program? Maybe that's the three questions from me. Thank you for this fantastic opportunity and for the marvelous presentation. Thank you.
Okay, Muhammad Fatir, thank you for your questions. And we may proceed. Maybe for the first question, he asked Mr. Welly how the quality control applied on the PT Great Giant Pineapple.
Yes, thank you. So currently, GGP hold around 20 international certification. Yeah, So I think I put it in my presentation. If you can share it later. So based on 20 certification, we design our quality control and quality assurance. So that's whatever we have produced will be complied to the certification that we have. And the quality control is not only in the factory, but start from the plantation also. So what kind of insecticide that can be used? What is the fertilizer we use? How to implement it? And not only that, how we treat the welfare of the manpower. This also will be audited. Yeah, even the ratio of toilet and the number of people who work also they calculate that will be audit. So to fulfill the international market needs, we have 20 certification. You can see in that certification, and even we have also kosher standard, which is very costly, and it means that the quality control done is not only in the factory, in the processing, but starting from the plantation, in the production, and how we transport the product also, and how we treat our worker, our employee. And it is also it's a total quality control. So that's to meet the international standard. So that's why actually it's not easy to penetrate the international market. You can just imagine how our small farmer will do to fulfill this 20 certification. So the best thing that's why now we develop the program based on creating share value program, not CSR, because CSR is more to philanthropy. So now we are implementing all those creating share value. So that's why we work with the farmer side by side and keep on monitor the farmer from the planting material, from the harvesting, processing, packing, and then we are also the off-taker of this product. So if you talk about how you implement the quality control, is actually what we call as a total quality control from the plantation, factory, packaging, marketing, how we how our product to the container, how we load the can pineapple and the can making and everything. So that's actually a total quality control comply to whatever certification we have. I think that's the answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Welly, for the answer. It's very interesting. 20 international certification.
So the question is, when the fruit or fruit product from overseas imported to Indonesia, are they also treated that should pass 20 certification in Indonesia?
Wow, amazing.
Treated equally or not? That's a big question.
Oh yeah.
If we want to export, we have to comply to 20 certification. But what about the import?
Yeah.
Does Indonesia implement the same system also, that all the imported fruit have to go under the 20 set, have to meet the requirement from the 20 certification that we have. So it is not equally treated actually.
Yeah, so it is easier to come, but not as much
To
as
export,
go
yeah,
out. Yeah.
yeah. To import is always easy than export.
Thank you so much, Mr. Welly. Very interesting, and also about your total quality control holistic way.
Yeah.
Thank you. And the second question for Mr. Cobalt, I'm sorry if I'm wrong. Fatir is asking duration for curriculum development and also the next plan, maybe. Fatir, is it your question? The next, the duration? You're
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Actually, I asked that question.
okay. Mr. Cobalt, do you understand the question? Okay.
Thank you, Fatir, for the question. So the duration of the program was 2 years. And once the funding ran out, the project officially finished. So once the official end date had occurred, we had to then do the report, and that was the end of the project. So 2 years was the duration. But we have had some ongoing interaction with our colleagues at IPB since then. So we have talked to them quite a bit about veterinary public health teaching. Specifically, IPB has started a new One Health course. And so they were quite interested in engaging on that, on the curriculum for that. And that, I think, has been quite successful. We've also discussed the possibilities of doing some research and teaching engagement work with them, mainly on the subject of antimicrobial resistance, because it's such an important area and it's an area of focus for them and for us. We also, I did liaise a great deal with Professor Shrihadi and others also around VPP, veterinary paraprofessional education, when I was doing some project work with the OIE, the World Organization for Animal Health. And we were quite interested in understanding the Indonesian context for veterinary paraprofessional training. And so I did discuss this quite a lot with Professor Shrihadi, and we did use some of that when we developed the guidelines for paraprofessional education. And most recently, we engaged with colleagues from the vocational school here in some workshops that were designed to disseminate knowledge on the guidelines to OIE member countries. I know that Dr. Herianto, I think, is present somewhere. So Dr. Heri was kind enough to come along and speak, and we had some good interaction there with our Indonesian colleagues as well on further enhancement of member countries' uptake of those guidelines. So there's been some good follow-on work from that project, and if we had the chance, if we had some additional opportunities, we'd like to do some more work again.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Dr. Cobalt. It is also very interesting about your competency-based curriculum. We also having maybe similar training for vocationals, for our faculty that is from Netherlands. Okay, thank you, Mr. Cobalt. And we may proceed to the third question. For Mr. Kodrat, do we have Mr. Kodrat here? Oh, yeah, we have him. Thank you, Mr. Kodrat. For very short notice, you are here. The question is the criteria to get incentive from this program.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Muhammad Fatir, and ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Kodrat Winarno from the Ministry of Agriculture, and I'm here on behalf of Ms. Ida Widi Arshanti. And For the question about the criteria to get incentive from Kosratani program, please allow me to share just one slide of presentation, part of the Miss Ida presentation, and this is about the Kosratani. So Kosratani is a program for developing the Agricultural Extension Center, or PPP, Balai Penyuluhan Pertanian, and we have 5 function of these offices. First is for Data and Information Center, second for the Center for the Agriculture Development, third is for Learning Center, fourth is for Agribusiness Consulting Center, and 5 is for Partnership Network Development Center. And I assume that Mr. Muhammad Fatir, maybe you will be a like entrepreneur or agricultural entrepreneur, so you are mostly welcome for join us to this program. So you can join as a partner of the PPP or the Agriculture Extension Center for maybe from the business side development, where you can assist farmers to market their product or to improve their production based on your knowledge or your experience. And also you may have contact with major consumer, for example, and you can join the production from the the upstream to the downstream level, but in the district level. So the incentive is more likely like maybe some project together with the Ministry of Agriculture and also with the farmer itself. The form of the incentive, some kind of like a business development training, for example, or maybe like a partnership with the from private sector, for example, and also with the government also. Is that answering your question, Mr. Muhammad Fatir? Okay. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Muhammad Fatir, do you still want it? Is it clear enough? Okay, I think it is, and we can proceed to other question. We have with us here
Thank you.
Sylvie. Yeah, thank you, Fatir. Sylvie, do you want to deliver your question directly? You can unmute yourself. Okay, maybe not. So I can read the question. My name is Sylvie from IPB. The question is for Mr. Welly. What is the first thing she has to do if she wanted to export her crops other than various certification? Well, we don't know if you have small, medium enterprise or maybe large enterprise. So maybe Mr. Welly can help with. We can assume that she have a small, medium enterprise.
Okay, thank you, Sylvie. So I think when we want to do the export business or whatever the business, we have to look at from the market side first. That's number one. We cannot just plan and then push the market to buy. What we have to do is what market need, that's what we have to produce. That's the main principle. So if you want to export, please, first, of course, there is a demand of the product. That's the number one. So if there is a demand, and then you try to produce, and of course, buyer will have, they require a certain quality. There is quality that we have to fulfill. So we try to produce, and then we send the sample. And if the buyer believe, they can start. If not, they will follow with the visit to your factory to make sure, because we are dealing with food. So that's why now we export to America. We have a certification from FDA, for instance. If there is a requirement from the buyer. So the first thing is, number one is you produce whatever the market demand. Not you produce and then push the markets to buy. Cannot be like that. But you have to produce whatever market demand. That's the number one. Two, you have to fulfill the requirement, especially quality requirement from the buyer. And you have to be ready to be audited, something like that. And the last is about the price. I think that's the stages if you want to export your product. I think hopefully it's quite clear for Sylvie. Thank you.
That's a lot of information. I think it's clear enough. Yeah, but the first thing, I agree with you. We have to do market research, because if we have the product but there's no one to buy,
exactly.
Then okay, thank you so much, Mr. Welly.
Yeah.
And we can continue with Mr. Dwi, who have a question, and he can deliver his question directly. Mr. Dwi, you can unmute yourself. Mr. Dwi or Mr. Agif? Or we can continue also with other question. Oh, you cannot unmute. Let me help.
Okay, thank you
Okay.
for the opportunity. And I'm sorry for not being able to turn on the camera because the bad signal here. So I want to give the question to the Dr. Cobalt here. Thank you for the wonderful presentation, Doctor. And the question is it possible to implement the curricula to the other study program, maybe like fishery and other program? I think that's my question, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dwi, for the question. Mr. Cobalt, I believe that you understand the question. Is it possible to implement to other study program? Mr. Cobalt, can you hear me? Do we lost him? Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe Mr. Cobalt having a technical issue, and he will be back after he can join us. Okay, he is joining us. Dr. Cobalt, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, my computer has failed again, so I've had to move to my phone. So I'm on my phone now. Sorry, I dropped out.
It's okay. We really appreciate your trying to get the connection. There is a question from Mr. Dwi. He's asking about, is it possible to implement the curriculum, the competency-based curriculum, to other study program other than veterinary?
Yes, certainly. Any program that requires a combination of knowledge, skills, technical skills, and attitudes is
appropriate for competency-based education. I think some of the more vocational training, it's even more important. So certainly for veterinary paraprofessionals, but anyone working in vocational fields where technical skills are very important, I think competency-based education is the most important form of education they probably have. So yes, it's important for veterinarians, and also it's a big field in the medical and applied health training environments, but it certainly has a lot of relevance to agriculture, horticulture, and other areas of vocational training.
Okay. Mr. Dwi, is the answer satisfy your question? I hope it is.
Yes, but I have one question again. So
yes,
Indonesia have many kind of slaughterhouse, from traditionally until the modern one. In the traditional one, we know that slaughterhouse is still not applied the animal welfare and the veterinary public health. So how we can deliver this curricula to the worker in the traditional slaughterhouse, Dr. Cobalt?
Yeah, it's a very big challenge. And we identified this challenge when we did that work over there. So there were some slaughterhouses that were quite modern and very well managed. And in those circumstances, it was relatively easy to introduce concepts of public health and welfare. But other plants, other abattoirs, slaughterhouses, very traditional, and they were interested and they wanted to understand about it, but it didn't seem as if those practices would happen in those plants. I think there's a few different things that have to happen for that training to be relevant in the traditional slaughterhouse. And one is regulation. One is to have laws that require certain standards of hygiene and welfare to occur in those slaughterhouses, such that there is a direct need for that training and for those competences. And the other is just public understanding. It's a greater awareness of the need for hygiene. It's pressure from the public who consume that food and who raise those animals. It's a knowledge in those people and the public that then puts pressure on that slaughterhouse to have appropriate standards of welfare and hygiene in place. So they're the two main things I think that have to happen. But it is a complex problem and will take a lot of work and a lot of time, I think, to have that happen.
Okay. Mr. Dwi?
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor, for the answer.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Cobalt. Maybe it's relevant with the limited resources and how they can do the methods with their limited resources. Maybe that is the biggest challenge for them. Okay, thank you. And we may proceed with other question. We have a question from Mr. Priyasembada. Mr. Priyasembada, do you want to deliver your question directly?
Halo Mbak Bu Tonya, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to ask.
Yes, please.
Okay, I would like to ask to Mr. Welly. Pak Welly, thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. Years ago, I visited once GGP and GGLC, and at that time, the dairy farm has been just opened. What was interesting is that the opening of dairy farm aimed at fulfilling the nutritional needs for the workers.
but now the milk production is quite high, and you sell the premium milk from it. So as we know that Lampung is not suitable location for the dairy farm, how the company decided to open it and even scaling up the business? Thank you.
I can answer directly, Tanya?
Yes, please, you can answer directly.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, dairy farm is because like this, we are implementing now what we call is a circular economy. So, it's a challenge for KKP how to turn the waste from the factory into a edible food, which is for human consumption. So we are quite success with the feedlotting, fattening cattle, and our land is a very low land, I think. But with the spatial design of the pen of the cattle, with the spatial design, everything, you can believe now our average production is 25 to 27 liter per head a day. So we can prove it because if we talk about the livestock business, the philosophy is not to bring the feed to the cattle, but you bring the cattle to the feed instead of you bring the feed to the cattle. That's the idea. Why we have a dairy in Lampung? Because we have a lot of feed. We have the cassava cake mill. We have molasses because we have refinery of sugar. So we have plenty of land. We can plant it with the corn, grass, and everything. So if we are successful with the beef cattle, why not with the dairy? And now we can prove it that in spite of our pen now in the low altitude land, but we can prove it with the spatial design, with management and everything, we can produce, and now average 25 to 27 liters a day. I think there is exceeding also in the highland area, because dairy is very honest. If you taking good care of the cattle, they will give you something also better, something like that. Yeah. So if talking about the dairy, I think we can prove it now, regardless whether there is a highland or lowland, but it depends on how we manage the livestock industry. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Pak Welly.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Welly. Mr. Priya, do you have other question for Dr. Cobalt?
No, thank you, Bu Tanya.
Okay. Well, we can continue. We have also with us Mr. Doni Yusri from IPB University, also from our faculty. And he wanted to deliver his question. Are you still with us, Mr. Doni? Can you unmute yourself?
Yes. No success. I tried to unmute, but I don't know if helped. Okay. Terima kasih, Bu Tanya. Thank you very much for the opportunity to give the question. Basically, I think all speakers can answer my question, but the first one, I would like to deliver this question to Miss Cobalt, Mr. Cobalt, yeah, Mr. Cobalt, Pak Welly, and others speakers. How are you? I think
Mr. Kodrat.
Fine,
Kodrat, yeah, and Mr. Kodrat.
baik, Pak Doni.
Yeah, Pak Welly. In 2010s, I brought my student to go Great Giant Pineapple. Tapi belum ketemu Pak Welly at the moment.
Ya, saya di Jakarta terus, Pak.
Okay, Pak Welly. Okay. I want to put my question firstly to Mr. Cobalt. Mr. Cobalt, have you had an experience for developing curricula, including three parties, I mean triple helix, like our topics today? I think also Pak Welly or Pak Kodrat can answer my question after. Have you had an experience for developing curricula, including three parties, government, business, and university? And I want to know how the results. Yeah, at least until now. Is it okay? Is it possible for or can I repeat again? No. Yeah, I think it's enough. Okay.
Mr. Cobalt, do you understand the question, or do you need it to repeat? You may answer the question.
Mr. Cobalt mungkin hilang lagi.
Belum di admit.
Yep, now it's working. Thank you. Yes, I do understand the question. So this is the ABG concept, or the combination of academic and business and government interaction. So yes, we have done quite a bit of work in this area. The main context for that style of curriculum is what we call EMS, or extramural studies. So this is where students do placements. And in the veterinary context, many of those placements are in private veterinary clinics, but many of them are also with the government. So working in abattoirs, all of our students have to do placements in abattoirs, and they work alongside the government-employed veterinarian, and they work with government-employed meat inspectors and para-veterinarians. And so this curriculum blends the academic in terms of the students are part of an academic program. They have their background training, their lectures and their tutorials that prepare them for this experience. But it's also managed by government and business, in that the private institutions, they may be veterinary hospitals, they may be abattoirs, they may be laboratories, will host the students. But there's also a government aspect as well in terms of regulatory environment and veterinarian oversight. So it's a requirement for our accreditation standards. It is actually a requirement to have a minimum number of weeks of this extramural studies type of training. And so we've had to extend this quite a lot for our program in recent years. And we're also working with other veterinary schools to introduce similar kinds of training into their programs too.
Okay. Mr. Doni, do you satisfy with Mr. Cobalt's answer?
Yes. Yeah, clearly, Mrs. Tonya. But I forget to introduce myself before.
Yes, please.
Mr. Cobalt and other speakers. My name is Doni Yusri. I'm doing my lecture in IPB, the same department with Mrs. Tonya. That's a good question. Thank you very much, Mr. Cobalt. Maybe Pak Welly or Pak Kodrat, if you want to also
give a comment or response.
Or response.
Just recently, we start with IPB to establish the cooperation and involve also Kementerian Pendidikan under the Director General of Pendidikan Tinggi ya, apa itu high school?
Yes, the Ministry of Education under the Department of
Director
Higher
General
Education.
Higher Education.
Yeah.
That's with the Kadereka. Recently, we just about to start and we signed already all the everything. This is, to be frankly, this is the first experience for GGP. And previously, what we have done, we try to establish our own human resource with the special training program, coaching, and everything. So that's whatever our HR department doing is just to how to improve our people, because at that time we cannot rely on, to be honest, sorry, we cannot rely on the university. If I talk to university, they won't hear me also at that time. But it's good with the Campus Merdeka and everything. So with the new program, Triple Helix, government, industry, and government, all together sit, we try to how to produce qualified manpower to fulfill the vocation in the business sector. So that's a very good idea. So that's why we just recently started with the IPB. We signed already, and soon also with the Sekolah Vokasi in Jonggol.
Yes.
We want to develop 17 hectares. We try to plant with the banana and everything under our supervision. And we have chat also. We talk with discuss with Pak Rector also that they want to have. We want to make a mini banana plantation, but they have their own what you call it, tissue culture unit. They have, so we try to establish. So that's gonna be a research center, but as I explained previously, there is a income generating research center. So that's what we will try. So to be honest with you, previously we don't have any experience. We only rely on our HR development. We design our own training, and even we send our people to go overseas, to Taiwan, to Philippines, to everywhere. And sometimes we give him also scholarship to pursue the master degree and IPB everywhere to improve their quality. But now we have a new program with the Campus Merdeka. So it's mean that our from the private sector, now we can have more time to concentrate to the business. The development of the employee and everything, we can have a cooperation. Like, for instance, why should GKP have a R&D too big R&D? How many PhD GGP can afford to hire? Meanwhile, in IPB, we have a lot of PhD. Why don't we have a close cooperation? So we give order to IPB. Hey, I want it to be. If you can design for our researchers. I want to approve this one. And if we do it by ourselves, you know, we consider it's not efficient. So it's better for us to focus on the business. So for R&D, we will have a cooperation with the university Even maybe there is a collaboration, maybe IPB, UGM, Brawijaya all together. So there is more for us, for KKP, it's easier so that they will give us more time to concentrate only to the business, how to develop the business. And for the product development or for the technology, let's say how to improve the fertilizer with the slow release. Why should we have our people doing research for the slow release fertilizer? Meanwhile, in IPB, we have a lot of doctors. We have a lot of PhD. So in the future, that GGP will have more close cooperation with the research institutional, I mean a university, and maybe also with the government, because they have a lot of research institutional. Yeah, they have tanaman, buah tropis, whatever, tropical fruit research center. They have so many things. So actually, we just doing market research, and what we cannot produce, if we have difficulty, we ask. So that we have more collaboration to create our product, so that together we can create also the foreign exchange for the government. That's the idea. So I don't like there is a dichotomy, private and government. In this current situation, government and private have to work together, work hard, how to make money. That's the idea. Thank you, Ronnie.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Welly. There's a lot of ideas for us to maybe
create collaboration.
improve, to have a great collaboration between us, government, education, and also the industry. And as the practitioner from the industry, you also will have many ideas for us. And from Mr. Kodrat, can you please tell us the point of view from government point of view, maybe the policy, and also how the government can contribute to this triple helix contribution?
Yes, yes, Ms. Tonya. For us, from the government side, yes, Mr. Welly said about the policy from the Ministry of Education, Merdeka Belajar, yeah. And we are implementing that using teaching factory method, learning method that we are practicing now is just we are collaborating with the industry just to create industrial environment into our schools, and how that experience helps the student to improve their skills and also experience in order to have like to meet the requirement needed by the industry. For example, if they want to ask the student to work with for them, then they have to meet certain requirements from the industry, for example the skills and the experience. Then we ask them to or bring them in our environment, and then teach the students as required by the industry. And also we are working close hand by hand by the industry just to produce the standard product, and also meet the market requirement, and we hope that will establish a good network for us and also for the industry itself. And also there will be experience received by the student, not only to become a job seeker, but also to become a job creator in the future. I think that's our thought about the teaching factory in our schools.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Kodrat. So we also from our side, the educational side, we also having challenges on formulating which requirement that will be accepted for us for implementing the Merdeka Belajar. Merdeka Belajar. Well, it is a progress, and we are hoping that we are stepping forward. Okay, thank you, Mr. Doni Yusri, for the question. And we can continue, proceed with other question. We have here 3 people who raise their hands. We can start from Firma Mayangsari. Can you unmute yourself, Firma Mayangsari?
Okay, thank you, Miss.
Yes, you may proceed with your question.
Okay, I have question to Mr. Welly. Thank you for your awesome presentation. There is a lot of certification that you mentioned before to complete the export requirement. So my question is, what is the main certificate that we must have? Sir, thank you.
Okay, you may directly answer the question.
Actually,
What is the certificate for? I'm sorry, Firma. Can you please repeat the question once more? Okay, I have to unmute her again. Yeah.
what?
Can you unmute yourself?
Oh, what is the main certificate that we must have? I think the question like that.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. I think something like in Europe. Europe, they have ISO. They have a special requirement, and for the market in United States, let's say Walmart, Coca-Cola, and everything, they have a requirement. But for Jewish community in United States, it is required also to have a kosher standard. So that's why with the U, with this one is a kosher standard. We have to have a certificate also. So if you ask me what we must have, first is all the product, the general quality, total quality is the quality itself. You have to, and if you talk about the quality as from the physical appearance, taste, color, and everything, they have a standard. So all the certification is sometimes is they regulate how we process, how do we work to produce one can of pineapple. It's mostly like that, something like a good manufacturing practices. So
okay.
I think it's depend on the market when you want to enter. So that's why GGP have, I think total we have 21. We have 21 certification because each market they have their own requirement, and that's we have to fulfill. No question. Yeah. Thank you.
Wait, yeah. If I may conclude, it is different maybe for each product and also for each country. The certification is also different. Okay, we can continue with other questions. We have with us here Mrs. Gilang Ayuning Tias. Do you wanted to ask directly? You can unmute yourself. Yes,
Thank
please.
you, Bu Tonya. I want to give the question to Pak Welly. Good afternoon, Pak Welly.
Ya, hari ini saya laku keras aja.
Iya Pak, laku keras.
Okay. First of all, I'm very glad to hear and also see your presentation. Very inspiring that your company business concept running with the environment approach to produce the product with the zero waste. I am really appreciate. And also about your concern, your company concern to support the education sectors. I know that GGP and also GGLC is always accept our student as to join the internship. Thank you, Pak Welly.
Yeah, welcome.
Okay, and then my question is, I am interesting about the biogas product, and also I want to know more about the biogas. Whether the biogas is used for your for internal need as a source of energy, or you sell the biogas as the commercial product, because I believe the production of biogas in GGP and also GGLC is high from the cattle or the dairy cattle, right? That's all, Pak Welly. Thank you.
Okay, I can answer, Tonya.
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, we are very concerned with our waste, so that's why we always consider it is founder mentality of the company, actually, who give the instruction to the management. Is always a concern, because if you wanna if you love your environment, and then the environment will love you also, something like that. So that's why we are always concerned about that. Concerning the biomass that we will have, that we convert it to the energy. Now we are designing the program in the smallholder farmer also. We design a program with the coordinating Minister of Economy and Office. We are designing now to have a partnership with smallholder farmers. What we call is a food and energy estate. Yeah, food from fruit and from meat, and the energy is from the cattle manure. That's what we implement. And in our place, according to, we have also study with the PLN and our friend from ITB, Bandung Institute of Technology, that our population now is 23,000 cattle. Out of 23,000 cattle, they predict that the biomass from the cattle can produce about 4 megawatt of electricity. That's we want to need. And then now we in the stage of the negotiation, and not negotiation, discussing with the PLN. If, because 4 megawatt, I think one kecamatan can be fulfilled. So, and also we need also our own, now we use coal, but later on we will use also solar cell and from the biogas and everything. So more and more we want to be a green company or blue company even, and with a carbon print, zero carbon. That's what it's our target. So the electricity we produce, either one, we can sell it to the PLN, and PLN distribute to the small village around our plantation, or we use for our own power plant. That's the idea. But we have in our mind, and now being discussed seriously, that out of 23,000, we will have definitely 4 megawatt of electricity. That Gilang. I think it's answer your question, Gilang.
Yeah, that was amazing answer, sir.
Yeah.
And this your company ideas can counter the negative issue from the livestock
Yes.
sector. That livestock sector is the producer for the gas methane and also carbon dioxide.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
No, we have to convert.
Yeah.
I think every single thread, there is an opportunity behind that. So that we have every single thread, there is an opportunity. I do believe on that. So that's the opportunity is become our challenge.
Yes.
So that's why with pineapple, you can just imagine if we have a waste 300 tons a day of pineapple skin and everything. If I have to invest in the waste treatment machine, how expensive it is. So instead of the machine, we import cattle from Australia. So this cattle actually, so we are quite different with other feedlotter. We are not doing the feedlotting, feedlotter business, but mainly we use the cattle as a waste treatment unit of the great giant pineapple. That's the idea, and it is environment friendly. We convert from the waste to edible food to feed the nation. That's the idea. Thank you.
Yeah, it was amazing, Bu Tonya. Thank you.
Yeah. It's a very marvelous idea. And I also forgot to mention that Mrs. Gilang is also our colleagues here in IPB University on College of Vocational Studies, also on animal husbandry program study.
Muridnya Erika ini.
Iya, Bu Gilang.
Muridnya Erika Lakoni ya.
Bu Erika, ya.
Nah, itu satu angkatan sama saya, itu satu kelompok juga, Bu Erika.
Baik, Pak. Terima kasih, Bapak.
Ya, makasih.
It means you are also our teacher and mentor. Okay, thank you so much for the marvelous idea, and I hope that other industry can also implement that idea to be a green industry or blue industry that you mentioned. Yeah, thank you. And also with us here, we have Munggi Pangestu. Munggi Pangestu, you can unmute yourself to deliver your question directly.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tonya.
Yes, please.
Yes, my name is Munggi Pangestu, from student from aquaculture, vocational study from IPB University. So I want to give my question for Mr. Conrad, who represent Ms. Ida from direction of Director of Agricultural Education. So in pandemic, we know me as an aquaculture student feel less to get the skill about aquaculture industry. And in this position, I'm almost ready to graduate from IPB University. So my question is, there is any program for the government that can upgrade or enhance my aquaculture skill after the pandemic situation? Maybe enough, Miss.
Okay, thank you for Mugi Pangestu for the question. And you are addressing that question to Mr. Kodrat, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, Mr.
Okay.
Kodrat, you can answer directly.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tonya. So Ms. Muki, so you are about to ready to graduate from your studies, and you want to have like improving your skills, and maybe from the Ministry of Agriculture we have several trainings, and especially during this pandemic we organizing online training. So maybe you can approach, we have like Bertani on Cloud, so it's like a program delivered by the Center for Training, Agricultural Training, and they offer free training for everyone using YouTube and also Zoom as the platform of delivering the training. And after that, maybe you can join with the WhatsApp group, and together with other participants, you can expand your skills by sharing knowledge. And also the participant also comes from millennials, young agriculture entrepreneur, and they already success, as Ms. Ida mentioned in the aerial presentation, that we all have like the youth ambassador ready to have like more members in their community. So we are welcome Mr. Muki to join with us with other participants and also other youth ambassadors. May I know where's your location? Is it in Bogor, or maybe because we have 67 youth ambassador across Indonesia, so maybe we can share their contacts. Is it possible? If you want to join with us, I can share some of the information.
Yes, please.
For
Yes, please, Mr. Kodrat, if you don't mind, you can please share maybe the link or how they can sign up and where we can find the information for the criteria or requirements.
Okay,
you
maybe
may
I can drop in the chat box.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Is it enough, Mugi? Do you?
One more. What about the training after the pandemic? Maybe the live training or something like this, Mr. Conrad?
Oh yeah,
can it be possible?
Yeah, actually we have a program like internship program to Japan for youth entrepreneur. Actually, our minister wants to send at least 1,000 youth to Japan this year actually, and we have prepared for last year, but because of the pandemic and then we need to postpone that agenda. But maybe after the pandemic is over, I hope that we can continue that program, and we will inform you about the opportunity to have that kind of training to Japan.
Okay, that's enough, Mr. Conrad and Ms. Tonya. Thank you very much for the opportunities.
Okay, thank you also for the question. There's only 5 minutes left for question and answer session, and we have Nurul Masita for the last question. You can unmute yourself. Can you, Nurul Masita?
Yes, I can, ma'am.
Okay, please, you can deliver your question.
Okay, first of all, thanks for this great opportunity. And before that, I want to thanks to all speakers that have present the material clearly. I have two questions here. First, for Mr. Roland Cobold. Queensland University have many things to increase the competencies such as technology. We are from developing country, really want to try to improve our competencies, but sometimes it hard and so difficult, and we don't know where we must to start first. Maybe you can give us some advice about it, Mr. That is my first question, and my second question is for Mr. Kodrat. In your perspective, what do you think the role of agricultural research center is to be able to create a generation that wants to be engaged in agriculture? Because we know that the younger generation is very potential with this, Mr. Thank you so much.
Okay, we can start from Mr. Cobold for the first question. You may answer directly. Can you unmute yourself? Let me. Okay, now you can.
Now it's good. Yes. Thank you for that question. It's true. We have a lot of technologies at UQ and increasingly electronic and internet-based technologies, and they're good. We use them a lot, and maybe we're becoming too reliant on them. But we also have a lot of low-tech teaching aids as well. One of the ones we have worked on a lot lately are hands-on technical aids for teaching, to teach students surgical skills and other basic animal handling skills. And many of these are very, very easy to make models that anyone can make. So for instance, we require our students to do a certain amount of training in doing suturing, stitching, and they just use rubber models. So we have small pieces of rubber mounted onto a board, and we place a cut on that rubber, and the students have to practice different suturing techniques and demonstrate that to a supervisor. Or sometimes they take a picture on their phone and send it to someone. And if the suture pattern's correct, then they're passed for that skill. And we have similar models for putting intravenous catheters into cattle or horses, other models for pregnancy diagnosis in cows, or for identifying fetal abnormalities. So we have a large room that's full of these models, and most of those models are very easy to make yourself, and they don't cost very much. But the benefits to the students are huge because they can get their hands and practice things with their hands. And we actually think that these are much more powerful than some very expensive online tools to teach them some things as well. And so these kinds of skills models are becoming quite common now in veterinary and vocational training institutes. And we'd be very happy to share some of our ideas and some of our models with you. If there was a chance to visit and come and see, we'd very, very much like to host you to come and see, and we can demonstrate some of these models to you. We have a staff member who specialises in developing these. She's very good, and so she could also help you with that.
Thank you very much for the generous offer. And we will, maybe, after the pandemic situation is over. Okay, I highlight the importance of direct practices, and also maybe if I may say the limited resources we have may challenge us to be more creative. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. And we can proceed with Mr. Kodrat for the second question. The role of agricultural research for young generation regeneration on agriculture.
Yes.
Please, Mr.
Okay.
Kodrat.
Okay. Actually, we are experiencing the same situation where at the moment we have to attract more young generation to agriculture because we have many aging farmers, as you can see in the data from PPS, for example. And one of the reasons of the government trying to attract more is through agricultural research, and we develop like agricultural machinery, and also with the modern technology, drones, and like Internet of Things. That's something that usually close to young generation, where it needs like IT experiences, gadget and everything, and we have this experience where more young generations they are really interested in developing this kind of technology, and that is why the Agriculture Research Center is very important to attract that kind of generation. So yeah, we use this kind of modern technology to not only to develop or speed up to accelerate the development of agriculture in Indonesia, but also we hope that that kind of technology can attract more young generation to join us in agriculture, and also to replace the aging farmers, so we can secure our future generation and also our agriculture in Indonesia. That's the answer, Ms. Tonya.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Kodrat. And even though we have many other questions, but because of the limited time, we have to end this question and answer session. And may we proceed with the next session is, well, first thing is I'd like to thank you so much for the speakers, Mr. Welly, Dr. Kobold, and also Mr. Kodrat for their wonderful and insightful presentation, and to all of the audiences for their participation. We still have up to 84 participants until now, and thank you all for the enthusiasm toward this webinar. Hopefully, the webinar will be beneficial for everybody. But before we close our session, I would like to invite our lovely speakers to give their closing statement. Maybe we can start with Mr. Welly first, and then Dr. Kobold, and then Mr. Kodrat. Okay, Mr. Welly, please.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. If we are joined together, hand in hand, to solve the problem, I think, as I mentioned, please no dichotomy, government, university, or private sector, and everything. So all together, we have to work all together, hand in hand, and all the problem we can solve it together for our country, Indonesia. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We can continue with Mr. Kobold. You can unmute yourself.
I'd like to extend from Dr. Welly's description and thought about working together. I think increasingly in the veterinary education sphere, we're entering a level of globalization that we've never seen before. And the idea that Every country has its own curriculum that only relates to itself is becoming historical. And increasingly, we need to think about regional educational standards and even global educational standards. We need to be working across institutions to share curriculum. We need to be thinking about minimal standards for curriculum at a very broad level and cross-recognition of standards and of accreditation and approvals across different institutions and countries. I think that's where the future lies for veterinary education, both for veterinarians and for veterinary paraprofessionals and other animal health type workers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cobbold. We can continue with Mr. Kodrat.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Tonya. And continuing Mr. Welly and Mr. Cobbold's statement that in the near future, we are now having like a collaboration or networking, and we cannot do it by ourselves. And even though we are from the government side, we cannot do it by ourselves. So we need to share our resources with the other parties, like with the private sector, with the academics, and also with the society, for example. So in the near future, we are more like open to collaborative and networking, just to coping with our challenges in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you also for highlighting the importance of triple helix collaboration between educational and also industry and the government. May I continue? We finally come to the end of this webinar, and I would like to take the conclusion from what the speakers have presented. From our first speakers, for the Great Giant Pineapple Corporation, it have 20 international certification, marvelous, and Great Giant Pineapple also addressing social needs and economic value creation with great people and also great food. GPP also not only offer incomparable taste and assured quality, but are also nutritionally rich to the benefit of GPP consumers. When we are talking triple helix, it's segment agriculture, not only talk about the agronomy, pest control, but also economy as well as marketing. What GPP do with IPB University is an example how university can engage with industry. There are several things related to the importance of partnership, which IPB has a higher education institution innovation for Indonesia, certainly has challenges in making the innovations beneficial for people. And the innovations in IPB can be utilized well by Great Giant Pineapple Corporation to develop its business. So it can relate with urgency of agriculture 4.0 development and how the private sectors contribute in it. There are already many researchers about agriculture 4.0 in IPB, but IPB still has challenges to apply them. Because of that, IPB now have Techno Science Park, teaching factory in SV-IPB, which is a meeting point between academician and business, SV-IPB and Great Giant Pineapple, so that they could be a synergy in realizing agriculture 4.0. If I may also give a resume for Dr. Cobbold's presentation, there are several activities in circular and general standards used. One example is the OIE, World Organizations for Animal Health. Universities are changing from being autonomous institutions to service providers accountable to the interest of multiple stakeholders, including government, employers, students, staff, private companies. Like Dr. Cobbold experience in academic, there are some ways to increase the competencies, such as on-the-job learning and training is an important way of developing competence, and also participate in new projects or working groups. attend training courses, seminars, conferences in and also outside your company and university. Also pursue doctoral studies and also study for another complementary degree. And the last but not least, if I may, to conclude the Dr. Ida presentation, there are many pathways to economic engagement for youth in agriculture. Youth are involved and invest in activities that support agricultural production, capacity building, goods and services, logistics and value addition as service providers and entrepreneurs. And of course, youth are also farmers with a distinct approach to agriculture and tend to prefer shorter season, high-value farm enterprises such as horticulture. Young people are often more ready and eager to master these new technologies and apply them to agriculture to increase productivity and solve challenges. Okay. It was an inspiring and excellent presentation, closing statement, and also question and answer session from our marvelous speakers. And I guess that closes our session today. But before, I want audiences to give applause virtually to our wonderful speakers for today by clicking the clapping symbol in the bottom of the Zoom screen. I appreciate it very much. Okay, I give back this session to the Master of Ceremony in this international webinar. To Mr. Gatot. Mr. Gatot, you may proceed. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, wow, it's amazing. Thank you, Ms. Antonia, for guiding this wonderful and awesome webinar. Again, on behalf of organizing committee, we would like to deliver the deepest gratitude to the speakers, Ms. Ida Widi Arsanti and Mr. Kodrat Winarno from Indonesian Center for Agricultural Education, Mr. Roland Coburn, Queensland University, Australia, Mr. Welly Sugiono, Director of PT Great Giant Pineapple, for the informative, interesting, and inspiring presentation. And we also would like to thank so much to all the participants who has given very active and warm participation. Thank you very much for sharing. Well, actually, we still have other agenda for webinars, some course. You can please join them. Okay, and it will be shown in the screen about that. Okay, it is summer course 21 2020 to 2021. Okay, and it's a very nice summer webinar, and please join.
Thank you, Mr. Gatot.
Okay, then excellencies, distinguished guest participants, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to end this webinar on behalf of College Vocational Studies of IPB University. Thank you very much for your time. See you in the next webinar. Stay safe and healthy. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, baik. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
All.
Oh, thank you.
Terima kasih Pak Welly, terima kasih Pak Ulun, terima kasih Pak
Dr. Roland. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Terima kasih Pak Kodra, terima kasih Pak Welly, terima kasih Pak Kobold udah keluar. Terima kasih Pak Arif.
Terima kasih Bu Tonya.
Terima kasih Pak Gatot.
Keren ya Bu Tonya sama Pak Gatot.
Terima kasih Pak Pria, Bu Ima, Bu Gilang, Pak Danang, semua panitia. Mohon maaf atas kekurangannya.
Terima kasih Bu Tonya, Pak Gatot.
Untuk apa? Untuk summer course-nya yang dipimpin Ima tinggal berapa lagi webinar?
Ini yang terakhir ya?
Ini yang terakhir ya?
Iya, terakhir Pak.
Oke.
Ima nggak bisa unmute.
Udah bisa Bu Ima, udah
Bentar,
di.
oh ya, saya jadiin co-host.
Ya, ya Pak, sudah terakhir ini Pak untuk webinarnya Pak. Alhamdulillah.
Bapak sehat Pak?
Alhamdulillah.
Syukurlah.
Saya tuh nanti Ima tolong dibuatkan video yang kayak saya begini, jadi diem gitu. Jadi kalau saya pergi kayak tetap ada di layar gitu.
Oke.
Ya baik Pak.
Tapi layarnya polos ya Pak? Atau sekolah vokasi general gitu ya Pak?
Ya, saya tuh sering kali kalau dengerin webinar saya suka melihat tingkah laku para peserta ya. Tadi ada seorang peserta yang gonta-ganti aksesoris gitu ya, pakai toga dengan berbagai macam topinya ya, terus kemudian pakai kacamata dengan berbagai modelnya gitu, kayak butonya gitu. Jadi saya tadi foto, nanti saya share ya.
Baik Pak.
Jadi paparazi ya, Bu bilang ya.
Iya Pak. Tadi yang bergaya pakai toga saya nonaktifin ke videonya.
Ya si Safia kan ya?
Siapa tadi namanya ya?
Safira.
Ayesa ya, Safira Ayesa. Apa gitu namanya?
Tapi menurut saya nggak apa-apa sih, daripada tidak terlihat gambarnya ya. Kalau dia tetap mendengarkan kan.
Iya betul Pak.
Cuma ya lucu aja ya.
Iya.
Lihat
Miring kanan, miring kiri.
Bikin status barangkali Pak.
Oke, thank you very much ya semuanya ya. Bye-bye.
Sama-sama Pak.
Terima kasih banyak Pak Arif, supportnya
Ya.
Pak.
Oke.
Terima kasih Kak Tonya,
Terima
Pak
kasih.
Gatot, terima kasih.
Pak Willy boleh stop YouTube? Saya bisa ya?